Welcome back. This is part two, although I've named it workshop number 30. A few months ago, I started a shorter version of these broadcasts, which I called In My Opinion. So it's really a sort of a match up on that as well. The reason for me coming back and talking to you about street photography in particular is because of recent conversations that I've been having, and what I've been seeing has been posted up in Facebook and Google Plus and other such social sites for photography. The first experience I had was when I spoke to Scott Kelby about street photography on one of my recent shows. And Scott was quite openly commented that he thought it was a genre which would be the first to go. He thought street photography was sneaky and in certain parts had a tendency to invade on people's privacy. This can be true, I would hasten to add. But in my defense of the genre, done properly, I think street photography is a very valuable and very worthwhile genre to be involved with. I then had a conversation yesterday on my show with Alex Lambrex, and we were talking about the Fall magazine and his work and what his expectations are of his work in the future. And he's a very critical person of his work and is constantly looking to improve on his past work. He's not one for staying in the same mold and staying happy and content with what he's done before. He's a photographer that needs to push the boundaries all the time and wants to improve on what he's done before. He's certainly not one to stay in the comfort zone. He wants to get outside of that and move on. But after the show, we had a conversation about street photography, and he in actual fact used the same term. It's sneaky. And this started to make me think that there's a pattern building here with regards to what people are perceiving as street photography. And then today, doing a little bit of decorating, I was listening to a podcast, and again, the same comment was made that it's sneaky. Even though this was said by a street photographer of good repute. I'm not going to mention that person, but the reason why they was commenting was it was sneaky, was the style of the way the photograph was being taken. And one of the little tricks of street photography, I'm sure you'll know, is to point your camera up to a building, pretend to take the shot, and then as you're composing and looking at your result, or what your subject thinks you're looking at result, you then take a photograph of that person in a composed situation which you've spotted, which you really wanted to take. It's a candid way of taking photographs rather than asking someone to pose and for their portrait. Sneaky photography again was mentioned, and it got me thinking. Yes, there's a lot of sneaky photography going on, and it probably is to the detriment of street photography in terms of what we enjoy seeing. So let's break it down. Street photography, in my book, is an essential part of photography that we know today. Everybody's got a camera in their pockets, be it a smartphone or a small compact, and everyone's taking photographs. And generally, they are street scenes now. So our street scenes are well documented, and they must be well documented, because if we don't take photographs of what we're experiencing now, people in the future will not have anything to refer back to in terms of a photograph to look at what life was like. Yes, there'll be films and there'll be videos, but there is something, as you'll all agree with me, there is something about the photograph. After all, we go back and look at the greats, Henri Cartier-Bresson, Eugene Atget, Brassai, Sol Leiter. Their work has given us an opportunity to see what life was like back then. And without that photographs, we would have no recollection of what it would be like, and we would only have to rely on the painted version. And as we know, the painted version invariably is not exactly what was in the scene. So street photography in my book is a very, very important aspect of the genre of photography. It's a very important genre. But we are seeing now a lot of same type of imagery, which is really not furthering our street photography that we're aware of. We're seeing a lot of photographs taken of passers-by, of people walking toward or people walking away, an old lady holding shopping bags, maybe a photograph of a dog or a cat or something of this nature. And really, it's unless the composition is being improved on these photographs are really telling us nothing. And then certainly, in my opinion, he's not helping that photographer to improve his abilities and create art. After all, a photographer is an artist, although there are people out there that would say, no, they're not. They just click a button. It's the timing of clicking that button and knowing when to take the photograph, whether it's subconsciously or whether you've actually forethought and seen a scene that's going to happen. But the point I'm trying to make to you is there's a lot of street photography out there at the moment, which is in actual fact becoming quite boring to look at. Passers-by really is not something of interest. People will say, well, I'm setting the scene because there's something behind. But okay, something behind has got to be of interest for that image to come alive. You're telling a story in terms of the photograph in street photography. So what I thought I'd do here is just show you some examples of people that in my opinion, are probably the best selection of photographers that I've seen in street photography over the last couple of years, not that long. I'm not going to go to the greats, the Cartier-Bressons and the Atgays and the Brassais. That would be unfair because we cannot copy those guys. That's the worst thing we can try and do, copy their work, because if we try and copy, I'll tell you now, you are going to fail. You are going to fail because you have not got their ability, any of you. But what you can try and do is forge and create something for yourself, and forge and create an art for yourself, which is different. We all study the greats, but we must never try to emulate and copy. So let me go to screen share, and let me just drop down here and get the first one up for you to look at, because I just really want you to see this work by these guys. The first one is Rinci Ruiz, who is an ex Fujifilm photographer, or Fujifilm ex-photographer. And from these photographs, you can see his work and his use of light and the contrast of images and how he's looking to compose the image. And especially with Rinci, his fantastic use of light and high contrast images that he's created here as he's walked the streets of LA. And he is definitely one in my book that you must keep an eye on and watch and look at his work. But then go out and do something off on your own. Consider what's being created here, but then look to do your own work and improve on what you've done before. The next one is Thomas Loutard. Thomas, absolutely superb photographer, and I think really, to be quite honest with you, in the years to come, he will go down as one of the greatest. His use of work, he's using the light. Again, this is a really big thing about street photography, which will come about, you'll see, using the light. Now, okay, we've got passers-by here, but look at the dynamic architecture behind there, which really does catch your eye above and below that level line. Let's go to this one here, which is showing great abstract work here. Horizontal, vertical, monotones, but such high contrast, and again, beautiful work with the light. The steps, a passerby, but we've got something really interesting with regards to the use of the steps to consider. And that person is not frozen, it's moving. And then a cyclist showing all this negative space. Next one is Peter Dench. Now, Peter is a photographer which, unfortunately, a lot of people say, "Oh, he looks too much like Martin Parr." But his style of photography is great record work of subject matter and for projects and assignments that he set for himself. This one here is called England Uncensored. Absolutely superb. You've got a hut here down in Blackpool, see the Blackpool Tower, but look at these old couple here having a kiss. Absolutely superb. capture of this image. Let's look at the next one. Old fella having a bit of a laugh with a glass of wine. And as you can see, the color is what life is all about, is it color as life. And there is definitely a similarity to work created by Martin Parr. But that said and done, I think Peter's work is outstanding. An old couple here. She's got the old camera ready. No one else around in the blue and white stripe deck chairs, waiting for what must be some form of a bandstand play going on. And then you have a family out. Obviously, the West Ham had just won the cup, and you've got movement in the front here, but you've got activity in the back. Finally, this one here, Hemon Hill, by the looks of things, looking down, watching the tennis. It's pouring with rain. They must be watching a recorded game, and there they are, wrapped up in the Union Jack. It's raining. It tells a story. It's always raining in the UK. Finally, a photographer from Australia who's a lovely lady, Teresa Pilcher, and she writes blogs on her experiences of her street photography. Normally set on a blog is normally set on a particular style of street work that she's doing. It's a great website you should go to, teresapilcherphotography.com. But basically, these is the set, her 10 of her best. And look at the composition and way she's looking at things. She's caught the fella asleep on the bench. She's now got a little girl squat down, taking a rest, and the lady sitting, the mannequin sitting in the window there. You've got the kid running away, movement in the feet. It's not just a passerby, there's movement there. And the fella, eye-to-eye contact, a bit disgruntled, but composition. Now, again, I did say to you about people walking passerby. They're getting a bit boring. You're seeing it. That's because then they're static. Look at the movement in this. She's done a little bit of zoom action on the image. Little kid asleep on the suitcase. And then a passerby caught dead center and a light background. Don't mind me saying, Teresa, probably not the strongest one of this set. Great composition of portrait of this gentleman. Straight in the eye. Great eye contact. Good work here with regards to the poster. Nighttime shot. Three guys look like stooges, don't they? Walking past. Use of the zebra crossing and the lady with the hooped jumper. And then a little bit of the Joker's in the back, and she's just calling out, and she's having a little bit of a shout out to Teresa here. She's taken the photograph, and then a nice blurred shot. Again, goes to the future. She calls that one, and then I'll close it with the evening shot taken here. So the point I'm trying to make is that I've heard it now mentioned 3 or 4 times, the sneaky photography, the one where you sneak up. I don't think street photography is one where you get your 18 300mm lens on a DSLR, stand on the other side of the road and take photographs of people on the other side. That's not street photography for my liking. Yeah, use an 18 300mm lens if you're going to start working in terms of a compression of your image, a la Jay Mazel type style work, and several others that I can't remember off the top of my head as I take this video straight off the bat. But the sneaky side of it is, I think, where we've got to be careful that we don't intrude on people, and we do get this genre disliked. We have to be very, very careful. And there's nothing wrong with taking a photograph of a person. You can go and talk to them afterwards or before. You can make contact with yourself. A smile goes a long, long way to helping you get that photograph you want. But I think you've got to be very careful now. As I say, as I said to Scott Kelby, street photography done well is with compassion and consideration is worthwhile, and it is an imperative that we do have street photography to document our lives today and what we're doing. We've got so much going out there, but what we have to be very mindful of is creating a disturbance and creating a problem for ourselves on the street and getting the photographer, us, me, you, into trouble by trying to grab that photograph and upsetting someone. That's the sneaky side of street photography, which we all have to be very careful of. And yes, there is the opportunities where you're taking a photograph whilst pretending you're on the mobile phone texting someone, or you're studying a building and you've gone right up close to someone and you've taken a photograph and they think that you're just checking the image you've just taken. Those are the sides of photography which they are tricks of the trade, for want of description, but you have to be so careful that you don't fall into the trap of people saying you're a sneaky photographer. That's my point in passing. It's a little bit of a, in my opinion, but at the same time, a little bit of a workshop, because I showed you some work there by 3 or 4 photographers, which I really think are worthwhile. The ones you've got to be careful of are the photographers which are doing the same work they've been doing for the last 5, 10 years. They will never, those guys never match the Cartier-Bressels, the Bruce Gildens, and the Brazzais of the past, when they were taking photographs and pushing boundaries. It is now up to us, when we go out, to try something new, to invent something and improve on what we've done before. Don't fall into the trap of doing the same thing over and over and over again. I hope you enjoyed this little comment with regards to street photography. It's something which I really do enjoy. And the one thing, in actual fact, which I could just add, one thing which I found, you can't just do it once in a blue moon, and every once a month or something. You've got to do it on a regular basis to get better. Practice does make perfect. Not quite perfect, but makes you better if you do it more often. Thanks for watching, and look forward to talking to you again. Bye for now.